Hello, Carolina fans. Regis Philbin here. Welcome to 2001 Year of the Gamecocks. We're about to take a look back at some of the great moments that took place over the course of the season. That huge win on the road against Georgia, the amazing comeback to beat Alabama, and of course, the big win over the arch rival, Clemson. Along the way, you're going to hear many of the players talk about their journey to the top of the Southeastern Conference, and you'll get to go behind the scenes of what went into some of those big games, the preparation, the dedication, the hard work that eventually led to success. A big reason for that, of course, is Lou Holtz, someone I'm honored to call a good friend. And as you watch this video, you'll see why he's one of the all-time greats in college football coaching. For many years now, I've known Coach Holtz as a man completely dedicated to success, both on and off the field. And he's the reason I've become such a big South Carolina football fan. I read my Spurs and Feathers every week, I'm not kidding, and I've also been following this team since Lou arrived on campus. And what a ride it's been. It just keeps getting better and better for South Carolina football. There's probably no better motivator on the planet than Lou, and the South Carolina fans I know feel lucky to have him leading the program. With a few different bounces of the ball this season, you could have gone all the way this year, but nevertheless, it's been a great season, And I think you'll agree with me as you sit back and enjoy this video. 2001 was indeed the year of the Gamecocks. Congratulations. Have a good time tonight.
But they run it back the other direction. Touchdown ball. Belisari's going to step up, and does he get tagged by Offord. Turns the corner. Touchdown, number 3 of the afternoon. The celebration here at the stadium is underway, and I have a feeling that it is underway back in the state of South Carolina as well.
As the final seconds ticked off the clock at Raymond James Stadium and South Carolina's convincing 24-7 Outback Bowl win over 18th-ranked Ohio State had been sealed, more than 35,000 Gamecock fans who made the trip to Tampa, along with millions more who were watching the nationally televised contest, were able to witness history in the making.
Hey, I went 1-21 my first 2 years here without any bowl experience. So, you know, I would have been proud and enthused about going to any bowl.
And we knew how important it was for the fans for us to win that game and to prove to ourselves and as to the country that we're a top 25 team.
Something special was happening within the Carolina football program. USC's 8-4 record in 2000 capped off the most remarkable turnaround season in the long and storied history of the Southeastern Conference. The Gamecocks had become one of the nation's most talked about teams.
USC 24, Ohio State 7. Go Cox! Yeah!
Behind the standout play of Ryan Brewer, whose performance earned him Outback Bowl Most Valuable Player honors, Carolina put the finishing touches on the first stage of a journey that they believe will lead to a championship.
We came off 3 losses in a row there at the end, and after that, you know, got everybody's head up high, and came into the season thinking, you know, we beat Ohio State. We have everybody pretty much coming back, and we're losing a couple players. I mean, why can't we go out there and just, you know, take it to everybody?
Relying on a team chemistry based upon the core values of trust, caring, and commitment, the 2000 squad laid the foundation for the future of the program, pointing the way towards new goals and standards.
And everyone just got together and said enough was enough, that it was time to start winning. And everyone made a commitment to themselves and the coaches to turn this thing around.
Last year after winning that bowl game, we hadn't sat that way in a long time here in Columbia, and everybody was riding on a high. So, you know, it was good for us and the community.
At the center of this turnaround is head coach Lou Holtz, unquestionably one of the most successful coaches in the history of college football. In his 3 seasons at Carolina, Holtz has solidified his stature as the most effective program builder the game has ever seen. South Carolina finished the year ranked 19th in the final Associated Press poll, making Holtz the only coach in NCAA history to have taken 4 different programs to top 20 national finishes. Coach Holtz also became the first ever to lead 6 different schools to postseason play. In recognition, Holtz was named SEC Coach of the Year. Soon after the season was over, Coach Holtz was quick to remind his team that while the progress was noteworthy, there would not be a sense of satisfaction or contentment.
Well, we feel if you're going to turn the program around, you got to put it on a firm foundation. Even when we were on 11, we said when we do win, we will continue to win. It won't be an up and down thing. Athletes will come and athletes will go, but somebody will step up and fall on the hand grenade for the welfare of the group.
With winning comes higher expectations, higher standards, and loftier goals. During the offseason, a quiet confidence permeated the Gamecock program, and as July soon became August and preseason camp began at the stroke of midnight, the upbeat tempo from last season's team filtered into the newest edition of the Gamecocks, who were gearing up for a rugged 2001 campaign.
I think the thing is there was a lot of pressure from a winning standpoint because it wasn't like we were 1-21, win a couple of games and, you make people happy. I think it was, we were 8-4 New Year's Day Bowl and expected something bigger and better, and that's what we were working for.
And you will hear guys screaming out, it's not easy to be a champion. It ain't gonna be easy to win the SEC. It's not gonna be easy to win the national championship. He says, what we doing right now, somebody else is doing. And you just got guys that are screaming it and yelling it and saying, hey, this is what we gotta do to be great. This is what we gotta do to win the national championship. So you could feel the winning atmosphere from August until whenever.
The Gamecocks entered the summer workouts with veterans on both sides of the football, especially on defense, where 8 starters returned from last year's unit that ranked first in the conference and 6th nationally in scoring defense. All conference candidates like Kalimba Edwards, Sheldon Brown, Andre Goodman, and John Stamper were poised to play the best football of their careers. On offense, the leader was a 5th-year senior from Boiling Springs, South Carolina. Phil Petty's lifelong dream was to play quarterback for the Gamecocks. Over time, he had grown into a quality SEC signal caller, and he was intent on making his senior season a special experience. The offensive line was talented and tough, while the running game was carried in the capable hands of the dynamic duo of Derek Watson and Andrew Pennick. Senior Brian Scott led the receiving corps, while the versatile Ryan Brewer could give winning performances at both tailback and receiver positions.
Coach Holtz kept making utilizing the phrase, are you satisfied? That was kind of the underlying theme through the whole off season and even through the season. So many times when you come from an 0-11 deficit and you build yourself into an 8-4 team and you win an Outback Bowl and beat an Ohio State and everybody sits back and wants to enjoy it for the next 6 months only to realize, wow, we got to play again. It keeps going.
On the heels of USC's success in 2000, fan enthusiasm in Gamecock Nation reached an all-time high. A record of 56,500 tickets were sold, and for the 4th consecutive year, home games at Williams-Brice Stadium were sold out before the season ever started. Preseason publications tabbed South Carolina as a top 25 program, and talk of contending for the SEC championship swept across the Palmetto State. September 1st, 2001, Carolina begins the season with their first preseason ranking in 13 years, as the 23rd-ranked Gamecocks lined up against a tough squad from Boise State. An overflow crowd of 83,000 packed Williams-Brice Stadium, making the game against the Broncos the largest home opener in school history. Early in the first quarter, Derek Watson scored USC's first touchdown of the season on a 16-yard pass from Phil Petty. Later in the quarter, Andrew Pennick scored from 5 yards out, and Carolina jumped out to a 2-touchdown lead. Boise State hit the board in the early stages of the second quarter, but Carolina got a lift right before the half when Langston Moore blocked a Bronco field goal attempt, and Rashad Faison scooped up the change and raced a school record 82 yards for a touchdown.
He is gone! He is gone! Rashad Faison picks up the blocked field goal attempt by Boise State, and he races home.
Watson tacked his second touchdown in the third period, and Daniel Weaver connected on a pair of field goals as Carolina cruised to a comfortable 32-7 lead. Boise State scored a late TD, but it was of no consequence as the Gamecocks posted the 32-13 win over Boise State. Next up was a trip across the border and a battle between the hedges as Carolina kicked off their SEC season against the 25th-ranked Georgia Bulldogs.
Getting ready to beat those dogs. Let's go, Cogs!
A year ago, USC shocked the Bulldogs 21-10 in Columbia, and there was talk in Athens that Georgia had revenge on its mind. A national television audience looked in to see which team would emerge as a contender for the SEC Eastern Division title. The Gamecocks had not won in Athens since 1993, and the 10,000 Gamecock fans who made the trip were hoping to see the tables turn. Derek Watson set the table when he returned the opening kickoff 60 yards to help set up USC's first score, which came 6 plays later. Andrew Pinnock reached the end zone from 1 yard out to give the Gamecocks the early touchdown lead. On their first possession, Georgia closed the gap with a 45-yard field goal by Billy Bennett. From there, both defenses took turns holding serve, as Carolina relied on big plays from Willie Alford and Kalimba Edwards. For the second straight game, Langston Moore blocked a field goal, as USC managed to keep Georgia's offense at bay. Deadlocked in a defensive struggle, Georgia appeared to swing the momentum in their direction, trailing 7-6. The Bulldogs picked up a Gamecock fumble deep at the 10, setting the stage for a memorable defensive stand for Carolina.
Under 4 minutes to go. Carolina up 1. Shotgun Phillips. Here comes Carolina with a 5-man rush. Phillips is going to run it a yard to the 10. That's it. It is 4th down.
The Bulldogs could only manage a chip shot field goal, as Georgia went up by 2 for their first lead of the night with just 3 minutes to go. That's when the senior leadership of Phil Petty took charge. With time winding down, Petty hit Ryan Brewer over the middle for a gain of 19 and a crucial first down. Freshman Matthew Thomas, a Georgia native, hauled in an acrobatic 32-yard pass from Petty on 3rd and 10, and the Gamecocks were in business at the Georgia 16-yard line. After 2 plays, it looked like the offense had stalled, and for a while, it appeared as if the Gamecocks would play for the go-ahead field goal.
I said, let's throw it up. And I went to Coach Holtz and I said, I want to throw it. And he said, what do you like? And I said, I like 18. He liked 26. And so we mutually agreed on 26. And we called it Heat 26. Maximum protected it. And Phil laid it up. And Brian Scott just went up and made a great play on the football.
After a timeout, it was 3rd and 10 when Petty and Scott connected on a memorable score.
Petty back to throw, pump fakes, lofts it near side, and it is caught for the touchdown. And Brian Scott took it away from Bruce Thornton, just simply took it away from him.
I just kind of laid it up there. You know, it wasn't a perfect throw or anything, just kind of laid it up. But Brian he went up and got it. I mean, he did what he said he was going to do. He said just to put it up there. So that's basically what happened. And I just remember I was on the grounds and I hurt my thumb, but I didn't even know it wasn't hurting too bad when I knew he called it, you know, because I knew we pretty much sealed the victory.
Scott's clutch catch gave Carolina the lead with just 1:16 remaining. Georgia's would-be comeback was on and over on their first play following the kickoff, when linebacker Jeremiah Garrison grabbed the interception to seal a thrilling 14-9 win for the Gamecocks.
That's big time. That's big time. That's why we won the game, baby. That's why we won the game.
With the win on the road, Carolina inched up the national polls to number 18 in the country as USC began preparations for a non-conference matchup with Bowling Green. But 3 days later came September 11th. The terrorist attacks on New York City and Washington, D.C. devastated the American people and sent shockwaves across the globe. In the aftermath, a time for national mourning, a time for healing, a time for heroes. College football games for the following week were postponed, and stadiums all across America stayed strangely silent. Carolina regrouped a week later and set their sights on a key SEC showdown against Mississippi State in Starkville. ESPN would televise the game coast to coast as part of its primetime Thursday night college showcase. The Gamecocks and the Bulldogs were the first major college teams to play in the aftermath of the attacks, and both teams participated in a special pregame tribute.
Being the first team to fly, first team, go out there and play against Mississippi State, it was something special. And, out there for that tribute, it brought a tear to my eye. It was something it was kind of hard for us to play. I think, everybody, Mississippi State and us, it was hard for us to get that out of our mind, but it was something that needed to be done.
State took an early lead, but Carolina evened the score on a 35-yard touchdown run by Andrew Pinnock.
3rd down and a yard. Handoff right side. Pinnock's got it. Breaks free at the 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Andrew Pinnock.
The Gamecocks relied on an aggressive defense led by cornerback Andre Goodman, whose play earned SEC Defensive Player of the Week honors. USC relied on 3 field goals by Daniel Weaver to stay in front of the Bulldogs. The turning point in the contest came midway through the third quarter when Corey Jenkins entered the game at quarterback. The junior college transfer had signed with Carolina out of high school, but opted instead to play professional baseball the next 4 years.
Keeps it himself with room. Look at him go.
And I was actually kind of calm, and I felt like, just be calm, be relaxed, and have fun. A good time out there, and, you'll be successful at what you do for us, running the ball or having to throw the ball.
On this night, Jenkins proceeded to lead the Gamecocks on a bone-crushing 16-play drive that took more than 7.5 minutes off the clock. The final result was more than just a 28-yard field goal by Weaver. During that drive, Jenkins punished the Bulldog defense, picking up 75 yards on 11 carries.
Jenkins runs over the left side. There's an opening. Across the 50, cuts back 45-40, 35-30, 29-yard line. On a 1st and 30, he gets 26.
Jenkins' coming out party signaled a new dynamic for the Carolina offense as South Carolina powered its way to a 16-14 win in the Mississippi Delta. And for the second week in a row, Carolina had beaten a top 25 team on the road. September 29th in Columbia, traditional powerhouse Alabama rolled into town as the anticipation at Williams-Brice began to grow. In 10 previous meetings with the Tide, USC had never won. Breaking that streak would not come easy. The Crimson Tide featured a balanced attack and renewed enthusiasm under first-year head coach Dennis Franchione. 84,000 packed the seats as the second largest crowd in school history was set to witness one of the most exciting games ever played at Williams-Brice Stadium. Behind the heady play of quarterback Tyler Watts, Alabama jumped out to a 13-point halftime lead. Carolina managed to claw their way back in it, scoring twice in the third quarter. But Bama would go up by 12 with just 9 minutes left in the game.
I think that game showed the character, the type of players we have in this team. I mean, if you would, as a spectator, if you were watching that game, you would have thought there was no way we was going to win this game with the way Alabama was playing.
You had reason to be worried, and we were down 14 and 6 or 7 minutes left, I think, and so you got to score. I mean, it's do or die time, basically, is what it came down to.
Once again, the Carolina defense rose to the occasion. Midway through the fourth quarter, USC put the clamps on Watts and his Crimson Tide offense. And for the second time this season, Phil Petty would be in a position to lead a Gamecock winning drive.
Petty, gun, gets the snap, back, looks across the middle, man open is Watson inside the 5, down to the 2.
Petty calmly directed Carolina downfield, trailing by 6 in the final minutes. USC lined up inside the 10-yard line with one final shot to roll back the Tide.
I've thought on other routes when, they called my name, I was like, all right, I'm going to get this ball. Like, this is to me. I'm going to be wide open. I'm going to catch it. And I never ended up getting it.
We just put that play in that week, and every time in the week I threw the ball in the flat to the back because the linebacker, they doubled the tight end, so the back was wide open. I was thinking, okay, think the back first. And then sure enough, they fly out of there, and Trafford did a good job sticking his guy and opened up.
Petty hit senior tight end Rod Trafford for the 7-yard score with 2:18 left. And when the dust had settled, Carolina emerged as the hard-fought winner, 37-36.
I turned and I, put my hands up and I saw the ball, but it's like a flash, really, and that's what it was during the game. It was just like that.
That is unbelievable.
The following week, the first hint of fall, as Kentucky came calling to Columbia, and the Gamecocks responded with one of their best all-around efforts of the season. The offense was firing on all cylinders as USC jumped out to a 28-0 halftime lead. Derek Watson rushed for a season-high 135 yards.
Counterplay, Watson, big hole up the middle, 25-30, 35-40, 40.
Phil Petty tossed a pair of touchdown passes to add to the cause, and the final result was an impressive 42-6 conquest of the Cats and their 6th win in a row dating back to the 2000 season. The following day, the Gamecocks rose to number 9 in the national poll, their first top 10 appearance in 23 years.
And that was an All-American play.
The following week, USC put their perfect 5-0 record on the line as they traveled to Little Rock's War Memorial Stadium to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Once again, national television was on hand, with CBS cameras beaming the game across the country. Coach Holtz, who had led Arkansas to greatness during his tenure there in the late 70s and the early 80s, was wary of taking his unbeaten Gamecocks into the Hogs' hostile environment. The coach's worries proved to be well-founded. Facing an inspired Razorback crew, Carolina never got untracked. Corey Jenkins' 41-yard touchdown run was the sole highlight and the only score of the day. While the Razorbacks consistently made big plays when they had to, in the end, the Hogs scored a 10-7 upset win to deal USC with their first setback of the season. 1 week later, homecoming in Columbia, Carolina would bounce back with a convincing 46-14 win over Vanderbilt. The story on this Saturday, the Gamecock offense. The unit shattered the school record for total offense in a game, piling up 656 yards en route to their 6th win of the season. It was only mid-October, and Carolina was already bowl eligible for the 2nd year in a row.
Vanderbilt, we wanted to bounce back and play well, because after the Arkansas thing, we felt like we let one get away, and I think we did, and nothing you can do about the past. You couldn't change it, but you could go out and play well the next week, and I think we had a school record on offense. So, I think we went out with a purpose.
USC's running back tandem of Derek Watson and Andrew Pennick hammered the Commodores all afternoon. Both backs cruised past the century mark in rushing as the Gamecocks gobbled up the Vandy D in big, punishing chunks. Phil Petty turned in another solid performance with a pair of touchdowns, but it was wide receiver Brian Scott who had a day for the scrapbook. The senior from Darlington caught 6 balls to go along with the score. The Gamecock defense was also up to the task, holding Vandy to less than 200 yards of total offense. USC also picked off a pair of passes as the team hit the halfway mark of the season with a half-game lead in the SEC Eastern Division race.
I didn't know how our team would respond, but we did have a good week's practice. And now we got a real big challenge next week at Tennessee. I watched them today against Alabama, and wow.
Carolina then prepared for its toughest challenge to date. USC would take their number 12 ranking on the road for a date with traditional powerhouse Tennessee.
The critical matchup in the SEC East as the 14th-ranked Gamecocks come in to visit the 9th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers.
The Gamecocks played in front of their largest crowd ever. Over 107,000 packed Neyland Stadium as a national TV audience looked in at home.
We felt we had an advantage. The only advantage they had on us was playing in Knoxville.
We knew what the challenge was, and we knew what there was odds against us. People didn't expect us to be able to play with them up there, and we thought we could win. And we went up there thinking we were going to win the game, not hoping, but we really thought we were going to win the game.
The Gamecocks controlled the early time of possession, and the first quarter ended deadlocked at 0.
Clausen back to throw, looking, comes scrambling out of there, gets hit and gets sacked. John Stamper knocks him down at the 19-yard line.
The Volunteers struck first when tailback Travis Stevens scored on an 8-yard run with less than 3 minutes remaining before the halftime break. Unfazed, Carolina came roaring back with a quick answer. USC marched downfield in a hostile environment, and with under a minute to go, the Gamecocks found themselves deep in Volunteer territory.
Here we go. First down, goal to go from the Vols 7. Here comes a blitz by Tennessee. Petty rolls to the right side, throws back, looking for Watson. The catch over his shoulder, spins out of a tackle, dives to the pylon and scores.
We've really felt like the way this team had responded late in the fourth quarter in some close football games throughout the course of the season that we would be there. That if we can stay there and fight through them through 3 quarters and be there in the fourth, that we could take that football game in the fourth quarter.
Defense was the rule in the third stanza. The Vols' vaunted offense could manage just a field goal. A Tennessee field goal was the only score of the quarter. After a punishing drive downfield, Carolina was forced to settle for a Daniel Weaver field goal from the Tennessee 1. That tied the score at 10 apiece as the game moved into the fourth and final quarter. The Vols would convert on a key third down play and then score the go-ahead touchdown with just over 7 minutes left after Stevens scored for the second time that night. The Gamecocks, though, had one final chance, taking possession with 3:38 remaining, but a comeback on the Rocky Top wasn't meant to be. Carolina was held on downs and came up short in a heartbreaking 7-point loss. The effort against the eventual Eastern Division champs had come up just short. A valiant effort on the home field of one of the SEC's heavyweights had been decided by one or two key plays.
That night in Knoxville, it was very cool, and the atmosphere was just fitting for us. You know, we felt very confident going into the ball game. And, you know, I still think we played well. We just weren't able to come out on top.
Carolina, now 6-2 on the season, returned home to host the Wofford Terriers, a game that was scheduled due to the cancellation of the games canceled following the terrorist attacks. With a workmanlike effort, the Gamecocks took care of business with a convincing 38-14 win. Nearly everyone got into the action, as Carolina's 7th victory was never really in doubt. The Gamecocks quickly turned their sights on the 4th-ranked Florida Gators and one of the most anticipated games in Williams-Brice history.
And things have come a long way in South Carolina.
When our players were freshmen, we were 0-11. They said, we want to bring game day here.
Coach, you've got your wish. Game day's here, and we're ready to kick it off now.
ESPN's College Football Game Day came to Columbia, sending a message to the nation that the Gamecocks had arrived.
On the South Carolina Fairgrounds, a stampede this morning.
More than 10,000 Carolina fans packed the grandstands at the State Fairgrounds as ESPN previewed the game to homes across the country. Governor Jim Hodges proclaimed that Saturday ESPN Game Day in the state of South Carolina.
Is this team more equipped to handle it with maturity tonight?
Well, I think number one, you see our fans, you see our band, you see our cheerleaders, you see our students. That is a great asset. The second thing that everybody overlooked is we have good football players. This is not about Lou Holtz. We have a lot of good football players that nobody talks about.
Well, the seniors, I know, speaking for us, we said we want a game day to be here before we left. I mean, you know, that started getting pretty big the past couple of years, and we said we want them boys to come here.
Phil, you got your dream, but you earned it.
The game had huge implications in the SEC Eastern Division race, and a stadium crowd of nearly 85,000 arrived early.
Fielded inside the 10 at the 8 and fumbled. A scramble for it at the 8-yard line. Let's see who's got it. Carolina's got the football.
Carolina cashed in on a 7-yard run by Derek Watson. Both teams exchanged field goals before Florida tied the score on this all-conference connection between Rex Grossman and Jabbar Gaffney. Florida took the lead for good with 13:15 left in the first half, and following a missed field goal attempt by the Gamecocks, the Gators came right back with a 3-pointer of their own. The backbreaker came on USC's next possession. Florida came up with an interception and cashed in just 3 plays later on this touchdown toss to Rashae Caldwell. Florida played nearly flawless football in the final 30 minutes and came away with the win. Carolina's bid for an SEC championship had come up just short, but for the second straight season, the Gamecocks had gone down to the final conference game with the title still on the line.
Our fans are unbelievable, and I think the rest of the country now sees how great our fans are. What was disappointing to me, though, was the way we played in that football game. I thought for the first quarter and a half, you know, we held our own offensively. It was 17-10, and we'd moved the ball, and we got down inside their 10-yard line and didn't get anything out on the board, and that really turned the game around. But our fans and game day and everything else, that was as much excitement as I've seen.
The regular season finale against arch rival Clemson proved to be a good tonic for the Gamecocks. Injuries at sideline starting linebackers Kalimba Edwards and Jeremiah Garrison, and quarterback Phil Petty was hampered with a sore shoulder. But the Gamecocks were not to be denied. The one-week-old stadium attendance record was broken as 85,000 fans packed the stands to watch the 99th meeting between the Gamecocks and Tigers. Clemson jumped out to an early 9-3 lead before Derek Watson found the end zone late in the second quarter.
Petty sweep, left side handoff, Watson inside the 5. Touchdown Watson as he stretches the ball out near the pylon on the left side. And Carolina has tied it up at 9-9.
In the fourth quarter, Corey Jenkins' 1-yard dive on 4th and goal gave Carolina some breathing room at 20-9. As the Gamecocks closed in on their first win over their rival in 4 seasons, Clemson scored a late touchdown, but Carolina's defense stiffened to preserve the 20-15 triumph. It was a sweet victory indeed for the Gamecock seniors, especially quarterback Phil Petty.
It was big. It was the biggest win probably. It's up there with the Outback Bowl. I mean, beating Clemson here, last game in the stadium, you know, for the seniors was probably as big as it gets, you know. And we lost those guys 4 times in a row, so we were kind of eager to feel the flip side of that. And so, you know, it was big for us. And being from the state, it was huge.
Well, I wouldn't have been able to go home if we wouldn't have beaten Clemson. Because where I'm from, that's all there is Clemson fans. And every time I go home, that's all I have to listen to is people just ragging me, saying, yeah, y'all can't beat Clemson and stuff like that. And now I can finally go back and say, you know, we finally shut them up.
In 2001, the university's bicentennial, the South Carolina Gamecocks have once again shown the nation that they are a program on the rise. Heading to their second consecutive bowl game, Carolina has been nationally ranked the entire season. The stadium attendance record was shattered for the second straight year, and the outlook for continued and even greater success is promising. The transformation of the Gamecock program into an SEC championship contender has indeed been something special. Coach Lou Holtz and his staff have built a winning team.
We brought this thing from the bottom and somewhat took it to the top. And, you know, losing won't be tolerated around here anymore. And it's only greater and better things for this program in the future. And I can't wait to come back and see, you know, how it continues to rise.
We don't have the tradition, you know, of the Tennessees and the Floridas and the Notre Dames, you know, the history of winning national championships. But it has to start somewhere. They had to start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. And I think with Coach Holtz here and the spirit of these coaches and our team, I mean, we're starting to build a tradition that, okay, South Carolina's something to reckon with.
Coach Holtz is always saying that adversity either is going to tear you apart or pull you closer together. And I think with the togetherness and the bond that these seniors have and their common goal of wanting to turn this program around and wanting to win and pushing apart their individual goals, so many guys you can look at that have changed positions, maybe taken a little bit more of a minor role on this team than they would have liked, maybe not got the ball enough or anything else. All that's secondary as long as we're doing what we have to do in order to win. And it was a great team to be involved with from that standpoint.
With team unity based on trust, caring, and commitment, the journey towards a championship continues. The goals and expectations remain high.
Yeah, we play in a very difficult conference. We finished 15th in the BCS, and to me, that's quite an accomplishment. Do you realize if 13 teams are disqualified, we go to the Rose Bowl? Now, I know that's not going to happen, but to be nationally ranked and to have people look on South Carolina as being a good, solid football team and people having respect when they play us, I think those are the gratifying things. And I think about that 2 years ago, we were 0-21. We just lost to Clemson. They were going to a bowl game. Nothing could have been any bleaker about the future of South Carolina. Yet, a group of football players never quit. They persevered. They believed. The fans certainly encouraged them and helped them and stuck with us. And the coaching staff remained intact. And we worked hard, and, you know, we've made some progress. We are pleased with what we've done for 2 years. But by no stretch of the imagination are we satisfied. A lot of people say, gee, you lose a lot of seniors, and we do. We lose some good football players. But I also think we will be a very solid football team next year. If we win some close football games, next year will be an exciting year as well.